The NFRN Truck Series race brought on a dominant performance by Mike Simpson, but now we move on to the second race of a triple header here at Pikes Peak International Raceway. From Fountain, Colorado, this is the NFRN Amateur Cup Series Colorado 250. Well, hello again everybody, Colin Denton here, back with some more NFRN action. This time we're here with the Amateur Cup Series. We saw the Truck Series, we saw Mike Simpson lead a monstrous number of laps. Well, we move on to the next series up. We've got a 50 lapper, and it's time to see if Donnie Moore, our first race winner at Columbia International Speedway, can make it back to back. But that's going to be a monstrous challenge to uphold, considering that he's starting a little bit further back in the field today and is going to have a little bit of trouble making passes on this repaved surface that we saw a lot of in the NFRN Truck Series. It was pretty single file with a couple of drivers going in and out and making a few passes here and there, but obviously Mike Simpson held that lead, and track position is going to be a valuable part of today's race. So we are going to get into it, but let's take a look at our part-timers qualifying race. And there's not much to look at because it was a pretty quiet part-timers race. Barry Watson on the inside, Mike Simpson on the outside. Adam Kuhn was able to make the pass on Simpson in the second place, but of course only the top 6 are needed to qualify. And McConnell was able to grab that last spot, so the 6 qualifying for today's race will be Barry Watson, Adam Kuhn, Mike Simpson, Hunter Cox, Tyler Reed, and Jesse McConnell. As for the rest of the guys, they will be able to attempt to qualify at Pigs Cliff next week, but for the sake of racing here at Pikes Peak again, that is going to be the end of their weekend. So the cars are fielded up on pit lane, and it's time to get down for the starting command.
Race fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Here to give the command, please welcome today's Grand Marshal, Chief Operating Officer of race sponsor Renai America Corporation, Frank Windsor.
Drivers, start your engines!
And with the engines fired, it's time to take you through the field for today's running of the Colorado 250 at Pikes Peak. The number 38 of Noah Kim in the Shake Shack Chevrolet will be on the pole for today's event alongside John Gilbert in the number 31 Mobil 1 Dodge. Two guys that had a struggling first week and looking to rebound here with a great front row start. For the second week in a row, we have both of the Callaway brothers starting next to each other. Dwayne on the inside and Al on the outside. Joey Radcliffe in the number 53 Chevrolet will start in place number 5, and Adam Kuhn, who just missed out on making his Amateur Cup Series debut last week at Columbia, will have the chance here today and will start in a great spot in place number 6. AJ Jones, one half of Jones Smith Racing, starts in place number 7 in that Dreamwater Chevrolet, and Shane Borland, looking to capitalize on his good performance last week, starts in place number 8. The veteran Eric Van Arsdale starts in the 9th spot, and our Truck Series winner here from Pikes Peak, Mike Simpson, gets to round out the top 10 in the Amateur Cup Series race. Connor Mace, who just slipped away from winning the race last week, will have a chance to rebound from place number 11 today, and Justin Roback, who had a rough wreck last week, starts in place number 12. Barry Watson, our first winner in the NFRN Truck Series, will get to start in place number 13, making his second start in the series. And to his outside is the number 23 Chevrolet of Kyle Law. Two NFRN Truck Series regulars starting next to each other in row number 8, Jesse McConnell on the inside and Hunter Cox on the outside. Chris Harley, our only Colorado native in the field today, is starting in place number 17, with Craig Martin starting in place 18. And to round out our top 20, we have the number 36 of Griffin Lynn, who had a terrifying tumble last week at Columbia, and Jake Thomas in the number 72 Toyota in place number 20. And that is how the top of the order looks like. We'll see the rest of the order scoring across the bottom of the screen, the back half of the field. We're at the bottom of the Rocky Mountains, Pikes Peak, one of the famous hill climbs in motorsports, but of course we're sticking these NFRN cars on the ovals and a few road courses to go along the way. But we're on this repaved surface. It's a bit newer than the last time we were here with the Elite Cup Series in season number 1. But the passing is still a little bit more difficult than it was on that old racing surface. But hopefully we'll see some side-by-side action and a little passing to go along with it, with Noah Kim and John Gilbert sharing the front row. They come around the front stretch out of turn number 4, and the green flag waves. We are racing here at Pikes Peak. And Noah Kim gets off to a great start. While it looks like John Gilbert really shuffled to the outside line, you can see the Callaway brothers make it 3 wide. And the 31 car on the outside, he's going to have the worst lane of them all, as he's just outside the racing groove, that shaded area in the turns 3 and 4. Dwayne got away. Owl remains in the middle lane with Joey Radcliffe to his inside. And it's a big jumble out here, but Noah Kim is going to lead the first lap and gets out to a great start. Danny Moore's trying to make his way through the pack. Oh, there's already trouble, and Adam Kuhn making his debut. Spinning around, hard contact with Jake Thomas, and Connor Mays spins in front of the field, and there's some big contact here. Multi-car accident on lap number 2, and we're under caution already. Mays with some major contact. Hunter Cox, the Truck Series regular, smoking. Oh, wow. Shane Borland, even more contact. He spins around on the front stretch past the start-finish line. Chase Baldwin, he already has a 42nd place finish. Last week at Columbia, this is not a great start to his second week. And Kyle Law also involved. It seems like he and the 35 car are having a bit of a conversation there. Not sure what sparked that one. Jake Thomas, we saw his hood get crunched in as he made a heavy hit on Adam Kuhn, who seemed to start that whole incident. Jacob Rose had a great top 10 finish last week at Columbia. Now he's bent in. Sparky the Sun Devil, he's also made some hard contact with the incident in turn 3, along with Jay Jefferson. Adam Kuhn remaining on the racetrack. Kind of surprised by that, because he looks like he either made some hard contact or had some hard contact with guys that ran into him. But that does send us into our first caution. Noah Kim leads his first couple laps here at Pikes Peak. Now let's see how this incident started. Looks like, I believe that 60 car might have made contact with John Gilbert, who was already shuffled on the outside lane, and that in turn got the number 19 around. And then there's the hard contact that really bent in Jake Thomas. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to continue with that. Obviously Adam Kuhn thinks he can. And it was a lot of back-end damage to Kuhn's car compared to front-end. But then there's some smoke up near the apron, and there's where all of this happened. Connor Mays apparently slid back up onto the racetrack, so I do believe I saw him get hit. He was a part of this first incident, and so he must have slid down and then ran back up through the apron. And a bunch of cars get collected from there. So let's watch. We'll go straight down the straightaway, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more. So there is definitely contact there between the 631, and then there's Mays getting hit, and so you'll see Mays is sliding way down the racetrack, and that grass is almost like ice to these race cars. There's little traction for them to actually regain themselves, even if they're standing on the brakes. But there is definitely where Mays gets around. Chase Baldwin's going to make that hard first contact with the 84 car. When I see Kyle Law up in the top right, he's on the wall, and I don't even know if that was the same incident. Like, Mays was behind those guys, and Barry Watson's crunched up in there. He's had some trouble getting a start and footing with the Amateur Cup Series. But you see Andy Coleman, Jay Jefferson, they're all involved in this incident right here. Let's see. Okay, there's Shane Borland. He was a little bit on the inside too. He gets into Barry Watson, which crunches into Kyle Law on the outside, and the heavy contact puts Law onto 2 tires, up against the wall. And he's lucky to put it back on all fours, and I think Watson and Cox made contact. Cox is smoking. Watson's just completely stalled out, and he has no opportunity to get this car going again. Chase Baldwin got involved in this one, but his teammate, Kenny Knox, let's see what he saw going into this one. Wow. Close call for the Eagle Motorsport driver, who saw both of his teammates taken out right there as he goes by his teammate Hunter Cox. We'll be right back with more NFRN Amateur Cup Series racing action.
So guys, a quick update on the facility makeover. The room formerly known as the break room is now the executive break room, so you guys can't be in it. But the good news is the new employee break room is just down the street a mile at Dale's Chicken Palace. They have a ball pit and their curly fries are off the chain, so it's a win-win. So.
What's happened to me? It's funny that you ask. You're loving me now, seem to be a grueling task.
Well, welcome back to NFRN coverage at Pikes Peak, the Amateur Cup Series race. We have 5 guys that dropped out: Hunter Cox, Jake Thomas, Shane Borland, Kyle Law, and Barry Watson. So a couple of truck guys along with some series regulars here. But we're back to green flag on lap number 7. Noah Kim continues to lead this one. We didn't really see any pits. Well, we basically didn't see any pit stops from anybody that wasn't involved in that accident. It's going to be interesting to see what these guys are going to need in terms of fuel strategy. Might be a 2-stop race, as we see AJ Jones trying to make a move on Al Calloway, work his way up the top 5, which he's already in. See Griffin Lindback here, 11th place, and he had quite a topsy-turvy weekend last week at Columbia. He obviously had that gigantic tumble in the Amateur Cup Series race, flipping several times on the concrete, finished 34th in that one, but he was able to qualify, in fact win one of the dual races, and then qualify for the Elite Cup Series race where he finished 6th place. Almost gets a top 5 in his series debut over there. So you got to watch out for this guy. He's running in 11th place at the moment. Mike Simpson, though, he's also up here as well. He just won the NFRN Truck Series race here at Pikes Peak, and now he's running in the 9th position. Justin Roadback is to his inside and trying to contend for position. But Simpson and that number 74 Dodge looking to have a good run here today in his series debut in the Amateur Cup Series. And then Chase Baldwin, we talked about how he was the last place finisher in Columbia and now involved in another accident. He's just barely holding on at the moment as he runs 37th place, and a few guys have decided to take their hoods off their cars, seeing if they can remain in this one. That includes Sparky and Rose. Both of these guys on teams wanting to get good team points. Speaking of teams, Eagle Motorsport, we talked about the struggles that Baldwin and Cox just had. Baldwin in the back of the field, Hunter Cox out of the race, but Kenny Knox, though, he's also a good start. Chris Harley, our only Colorado native, currently in 15th place. He had a 3rd place finish at Columbia. But it's got to feel good for Harley, as well as another Colorado driver, Johnny Gardner, up in the Elite Cup Series. They're going to have back-to-back races in the home state of Colorado as we head to Pikes up in Denver next week. So it's got to be exciting for both of those Colorado natives. Anthony Lopez out of New York. He was your pole sitter for last week, and now he's just a spot ahead of Harley. Didn't have a great finish last week, and he would like to improve a little bit better on that. We see TJ Smith going underneath Simpson, who we talked about earlier. Smith in a new paint scheme for this week. He's got Exient on the hood. rotating a few sponsors throughout the season, which includes Acme Markets and Stand Up to Cancer. Debuting this red and white scheme for the Pikes Peak weekend. Eric Van Arsdale, one of our Season 1 competitors, making a return to Season 2 in the Amateur Cup Series race. He runs in the top 5 right now, but in 7th in points, it's got to be a good run for him because he might be able to make his way high up in the standings. You never know if the points might put a guy in instead of a winner, and he's definitely contending for any possible open spot. Here's another guy with a new paint scheme for the week, Colin Lindsay, who's also a veteran of the league. He's got Monster Energy on the car. Last week we saw HendrickCars.com. Lindsay didn't have the finish that he would have liked at Columbia, and now he's trying to see if he can improve here at Pikes Peak, but he's running a bit mid-pack at the moment. He's going to have to find a way to make some passing lanes, and that's pretty hard on this racetrack that's just been newly paved, and it's probably going to come down to pit stops whether or not he's able to recover and make up some spots to increase his standing, contend for a win, and get a spot in the playoffs. He's currently riding around and seeing what he can do. We return to the front of the field on lap number 17. Noah Kim running first right now, but definitely didn't get off to a great start as he finished 35th at Columbia and pretty far back in the points. It is early in the season though, so any good finish here can definitely X out or eliminate that bad finish he had at Columbia. Now we're watching on Dwayne Calloway, who finished 10th last week. So he had a good top 10 run for the family-run organization. Now he's hot on Kim's tail, but that is the case for a lot of the guys that are up here in this front pack. They're all running single file right now. I'm sure they'd love to find a way to nudge their nose underneath the car in front of them. That would definitely make a passing lane for him. Jacob Rose, we talked about how he had the hood off the car. He's basically just riding around hoping that some other cars are going to crash. He finished 7th last week at Columbia. So he had a good run, and now he's probably going to do the opposite of what Kim does today. He might fall back in the standings quite a bit. Jesse McConnell, he's making his series debut, and he's having a very solid run right now. 7th place here on the 1 mile racetrack. Just a bit over a mile, actually. Oh, we see Joey Radcliffe now contending. Oh, we have a spin. That is Herjol Arvid Alonso getting spun around on the backstretch on lap number 20, and that is going to send us to a caution flag. And this could be the time we see some pit stops coming around. Obviously, Alonso's going to need to stop for some tires, but this might be the prime time for drivers to make a stop because you don't know when you're going to see your next caution. We do see that Kim is going to come down as well as Dwayne Calloway. It looks like the rest of the field is looking to go, and there's some big contact, as a lot of the cars looked like they just slowed down. I also saw Chris Harley spun around Donnie Moore. Tyler Reed is way crunched in there, as you can see on the front of his car. For an additional spin, there's Colin Lindsay. And Alonso, who just basically had a small spin on the backstretch the lap prior, now he's got huge front end damage on his race car. But they're coming down for pit stops anyway, and I do see that there were a few drivers that stayed out on the racetrack. Quite a few, actually. As we watch Noah Kim, he led them coming on, and they pull away. And I believe they actually are scoring Callaway as being able to take over the spot from Noah Kim. That is what our computers are saying right now. We'll take a look into that in just a moment. Here's where the initial incident happened. We're riding on board Alexander Rowe, and it looks like a similar incident to what we saw in the Truck Series race. A car dive bombs into turn number 1, hooks them in the left rear, but then keeps on turning them throughout the entirety of the turn. And that's exactly what happened there with Rowe and Alonso. So Alonso goes around, but then what happens right there? It's just like Rogers and Thales. They both check up, and Chapman gets a huge hit. I don't know. I think maybe Donnie Moore was trying to get back onto the... trying to stay off the pits, but the 19 car fan and Tyler Reed, they both go airborne back there. Those were some huge hits. I have no idea what the intent was there. Don't know why drivers slowed up. And then, okay, this is where we see Colin Lindsay go around, and it looks like TJ Ball is going to turn him. I don't know if there was some incident there, but Ball doesn't go down for a pit stop. He just continues on. It looks like Bachelia is going to also take some contact right there. Reed goes by with his heavy front end damage. Looks like Coleman got a bit as well. And look at this air time. 97 and 92. That is a scary, scary lick for all of the drivers involved here. That's going to send us to commercial break. We'll be right back with more NFRN Amateur Cup Series racing action. Small incident turns into a big one. Coming down to pit stops.
Look at this! This is amazing! Oh my! There's a spot right there. It's too small. I think I can back in. Casey Kane.
You ask me if there'll come a time when I grow.
Now would be a good time to have accident forgiveness. Part of Allstate Your Choice Auto Insurance. Are you in good hands?
Do you think he saw me?
We are back at Pikes Peak International Raceway. Ray Chapman, Tyler Reed, Herschel, Arvin, Alonso all out of the race. And it's all because of that pit road contact. And I don't know what happened there. I feel like there might have been some miscommunication about who was staying out and who was going down. But you can definitely see right here that there are some cars that did stay out on the racetrack. Some of those include Joey Radcliffe, TJ Ball, Jay Jefferson, Jacob Rose, and 3 of those cars are going down the pit road right now, and I don't know what they were thinking. I know a few of those guys might have made some contact prior. In fact, they were probably involved in that Wreck 2 accident, but I don't understand why they stayed out on the racetrack when they had the caution period to make that pit stop. And now Dwayne Callaway's chasing down Joey Radcliffe with new tires. And Radcliffe's going to pull down for a pit stop now. I'm wondering if maybe they think that they can get around with one stop. At least Radcliffe, because he's the guy that got no damage from any of these incidents. And he did make it past halfway, so maybe this will pull out for Radcliffe. We don't know yet. We'll see when we get to the end of the race. But Dwayne Callaway, who assumed the lead on the pit stop, he did in fact win the race off. That is what the NFRN officials are saying, but Noah Kim, who ended up pulling out second, is now caught on the outside as Eric Van Arsdale goes to his inside, and Griffin Lynn, how about him? He had that terrifying ride last week, and now he's contending to get up in this top 3. He would like to see a win happen here. And look at this, Colin Lindsay pulling it 3 wide through turns 1 and 2. Ryan Kendall on the far outside. Gotta believe that 97 car has some damage after that incident on the backstretch. But of course that 95 does as well. We saw him get some bumping and banging in with the 62 car who pulled down on pit road and now returned to the racetrack. John Gilbert, who finished or started on the outside pole, he's just running in pretty much mid-pack right now. In fact, he's just outside the top 10, so he's not having a bad run. But he definitely slipped up a lot when he was in the starting position that he was. And here we see the 62 and the 19 of TJ Ball and Adam Kuhn, and you can see their position relative to the leader now, Dwayne Calloway. There's Kuhn that just went off the bottom of the screen, so they're only a backstretch away before the leaders catch them. We're watching Alexander Rowe. He's running a bit further back in the pack, and he was obviously the one that got Alonso around, and now Alonso's out of the race because he got a big part of that backstretch incident on the pits. Robert Harrison, he's currently pulling up a 6th place run, looking to make it a top 5 if he can get underneath Kim, but he didn't have a great run last week at Columbia. Didn't have the opportunity to even qualify for Columbia, given his involvement in accidents. So he's looking to have a great turnaround here today. Adam Kuhn, it's not the debut that he wanted to see after just missing out on the qualifying race at Columbia. This time he did make it around because he got that great 3rd place starting spot, and now he's trying to limp his injured car around and trying to make sure that he doesn't get lapped even further, because he probably is a lap down now that he made that late pit stop. Anthony Lopez, we talked about how he's the pole winner last week and ended up with a 31st place finish. Well, now he's running up in 4th place. That's got to be a great rebound for him, and now he would like to contend for the victory. We're looking at the damaged car of Austin Rogers, and you can see that back end damage. And that was what put Ray Chapman out of the race because he was the first one to run into him. We're still unclear on what exactly triggered that accident. We definitely saw the 44 and the 80 check up. Our best assumption right now is that they were unclear on who was staying out and who was coming in. We're watching Noah Kim right now, and he's had a bit of a descent. Considering he was second off pit lane and watched the other guys go down, you would have thought that he would have been able to maintain that position, but you can see there's plenty of cars that have gone by him so far. Mike Simpson just made his move on the inside, and Kim is back to 7th place at this point as we are just hitting 15 laps to go. Eric Van Arsdale, he got his first NFRN victory in the Champions League race at Columbia. But now he wants to see if he can put it on for a 42 car field, but Dwayne Calloway looking to pull away and maintain his lead. We continue to watch Noah Kim start to get passed up by even more drivers, and the 76 of Kenny Knox, the Eagle Motorsport driver, he's on the inside now. And Chris Harley, that Colorado native, on the inside to John Gilbert, who is on the outside pole. Harley running in 10th place right now, but he's got the opportunity to try to make some late moves. See if he can grab the best finish that he can. He would like to see if he can better himself even further than that 3rd place finish he got at Columbia. He would like to do it in front of a hometown crowd. There's Joey Radcliffe, who pitted from the lead, stayed out on the racetrack while everyone else came down under caution. He is a lap down, but we will see how strategy plays out. Maybe he'll be able to pass everyone up when they have to come down for a second stop. I don't think that anyone else is going to make it. There's Donnie Moore. He's just about running at the very midway point in the pack. Our winner from Columbia's got his playoff spot clinched. If he stays in that top 25 as he tries to make a move to the inside of TJ Smith, going for 19th place. These guys are just running all around the mid-pack. Craig Martin didn't have a great finish at Columbia. He was also involved in accidents. Seeing what he can do to improve his spot. Now we see Adam Kuhn. The leaders are catching up with the number 19 car. They have really decreased that gap, but whether or not they're going to catch him before they have to make an additional green flag stop is yet to be determined. And you saw the incident before. The 19 car looked like he took some heavy hits, but upon observation, it looks like the only real damages to his back end might be affecting the aerodynamics a little bit, but it looks like the actual engine compartment is still intact. So I don't think that's really putting an effect on his race car. Might be messing up his spoiler, might be making it a little bit looser and slowing his lap times down as the 65, the 67, 36 all catching up to him. And Callaway really diving deep into those corners. I think he wants to get around him as soon as possible. But we'll see. They're still in need of the pit stops. This front group is. And I see the 36. We're looking back on him a little bit now, and now he's looking to get a move on to the 67 of Eric Van Arsdale. He wants to contend for second place. A big move for the 36 car driver. Yankee Coles Motorsports didn't have a great week at Columbia. Now Alonso is out, but can Lynn make up the difference? We hit the start-finish line, 6 laps to go. And we've got to be hitting our pit window now. And there we go. Dwayne Callaway is pulling down. We go split screen. We'll watch the drivers coming in. We'll watch the leader as they decide not to pit, and when they do. So now Eric Van Arsdale is going to have a lap led. He's going to get a bonus point now. It's going to be interesting to watch these guys go now. I don't believe we'll see any tires on the race cars as we see Van Arsdale and Lynn coming down now. And that is going to put the lead in the hands of Anthony Lopez. Robert Harrison also stays out along with Mike Simpson. '67 comes in. And he's made some contact with Connor Mays, and that could be detrimental to his performance now. We did not expect that to happen, as Van Arsdale makes contact with the guy in the stall behind him, and he might have lost a few spots there. Lopez came in. A lot of that front group came in, and now Jason Thales takes the lead with 3 laps to go. Anthony Lopez comes in. Stops in his stall. It's going to be a gas and go for the 75 car. And now the 80 car pulls down. Looks like TJ Smith comes with them. This might be the final group of cars that has yet to pit. Thales pulls into his stall. That number 80 Toyota goes gas and go. As we have 2 laps to go, and TJ Smith actually pulls out way faster than he does. But is he going to be able to beat out the power that Callaway has? And no, he isn't. He's going to blow right by him. The 65 pulls out the great pit stop and is going to continue to lead this one. But Griffin Lynn is going to hold on to second place now with Van Arsdale nowhere to be seen. That contact on pit road was terrible for him. White flag is out. Major seconds lost for that 67 car and has no ability to try to contend for even a top 10 spot. But the 65 of Dwayne Callaway, after taking the lead on the pit stops, coming off the caution flag, has been able to hold on to this lead for the entire time. And Dwayne Callaway, coming around the front stretch, wins at Pikes Peak in the Amateur Cup Series. Chalk one up for the family-run organization. Dwayne Callaway is going to get the first victory for the team. Now that 65 car and team has a spot in the playoffs. Griffin Lynn, how about a great run for him? Second place. He's just been on an up curve ever since his accident. He's definitely showing that he can wheel that car. And we'll see what he can do for the rest of the season. So we look at the final results from today's race. Dwayne Callaway is going to be able to walk away from Pikes Peak with a win under his belt and going to have an NACS Chase berth. Definitely something to look forward to at the end of the season. Griffin Lynn with the great second place run. We talked about how he's been trying to battle his way back into contention. Definitely a way to do it. Anthony Lopez, last week's pole winner, grabbed a great third place finish. Robert Harrison also made a great recovery from Columbia and finished up fourth. And Mike Simpson, how about him making his series debut after winning the NFRN Truck Series race here? He grabbed fifth place. Kenny Knox was able to battle his way through that accident and put himself in the sixth place. Noah Kim, who started on the pole, slipped after that pit stop and ended up in seventh place. The Colorado native grabbed an eighth place finish at one of his home tracks. And rounding out the top 10, Alexander Rowe, and another driver who made his series debut today, Justin McConnell. Going a little bit further back, Donnie Moore backing up his win with a 14th place finish. That should keep him pretty high up in the standings. And I'm very surprised that we're able to see 19 car fan not only stay on the lead lap, but a nice 19th place finish after being airborne in the big backstretch incident. And you can see just how bad of a tumble Eric Van Arsdale took all the way down to 24th place. Didn't lose a lap, but I'm curious to see how much time he actually lost on that pit stop with making the contact with Connor Mays. But a big loss for Eric Van Arsdale is only going to manage to finish mid-pack here today. And we brought it up as we watched it. Joey Radcliffe looked like he was playing some strategy there, and while he got back on the lead lap, he still finished 26th, so it didn't look like that one pit stop strategy worked out for him very well. It might have been the tires that came into play. While Radcliffe had to get the tires, the rest of these guys came down for gas and goes late in the race. So a gutsy strategy by the 53 team, but not the one that paid off in the end. There's the 84 car of Connor Mays finishing all the way down in 31st with that contact with Eric Van Arsdale. TJ Ball was one of those guys that tried to take the strategy and finished in 32nd place, but he had some damage along the way. And Adam Kuhn was the only car that finished the lap down in 34th. But the rest of these guys down here at the bottom of the grid all DNF'd out of this one. Now, as we take a look at the standings after today's race, Dwayne Callaway able to propel himself up to the top spot in the standings. Kenny Knox putting together great back-to-back finishes, gets to second place with 3 points back. Chris Harley, great finishes as well for him. Back-to-back top 10s is going to put him in third place, tied with Donnie Moore, who is one of your race winners. Harley's got the higher spot on average finish. TJ Smith rounding out the top 5. Eric Van Arsdale doesn't look like he actually moved anywhere. I think he's still stagnant at 7th place in the points, but obviously could have been a lot higher if he was able to maintain his position. Imagine about 20 spots were lost during that pit stop. He could have been up there in the top 3. Griffin Lynn with a great jump back into that top 14, which is going to be the cutoff if you want to qualify for the Elite Cup Series race coming up here at Pikes Peak. So he just made a great jump and going to try to see if he can maintain a spot for Bank Coles Motorsports. Mike Simpson's debut run is going to put him as high as 23rd, tied with a few other drivers as well. Moving a little bit further back, Barry Watson is qualified for both races, but he's still only good enough for 38th place after being involved in accidents in both races and not getting great finishes. And moving even further down, the full-timers of TJ Ball, Kyle Law, and Chase Baldwin all have been involved in accidents in both races, and they are going to be on an uphill climb if they want to get themselves in position to have a spot in the playoffs. Your updated team standings here in the Amateur Cup Series. Callaway Brothers Racing is going to put themselves on the top spot with today's victory at Pikes Peak. Al Callaway also having a solid day. Jones Smith Racing is going to be just 4.5 points behind, and RPG7 Motorsports with the lone driver of Jacob Rose is 14 points behind. Of course, we'll have the top 14 in the Amateur Cup Series standings attempting to qualify for the Elite Cup Series race taking place at Pikes Peak later on. Dwayne Callaway will field the number 93 car, Kenny Knox in the number 20, and you can see the rest of those guys going through, all 14 drivers and the car numbers that they will have in that race. So that's going to wrap it up for Amateur Cup Series racing action here at Pikes Peak. Make sure to stay tuned for Elite Cup Series racing action also taking place here at the racetrack coming very soon. But we will see you next time for our next Amateur Cup Series racing action at Pigs Cliff. And that will run in conjunction with the Elite Cup Series. The Truck Series will have quite a few weeks off, but you can see it all here on RVN. And so, with NFRN and RVN, I'm Colin Denton, and we will see you at the races next time.